States is going to enter the war in April of 1917, and she will send her doughboys over, and they will arrive in France by 1918. Again, some of the reasons that the United States are going to finally enter World War I are because of unrestricted submarine warfare, the fact that the British ship sunk the Lusitania in May of 1915 and killed 1,200 people, including about 114 Americans, was one example of the impact that it was having. But again, it was more than just that. I think the Lusitania was a symbol of the fact that Germany was hurting our business. So the fact that we were having a hard time doing trading with Europe because of this war was really one of the major reasons that the United States got involved in World War I. Another issue that came up was something called the Zimmerman telegram. The Zimmerman telegram was intercepted. Here it is. And it was essentially a request by Germany that if Mexico would attack the United States and be in an alliance with Germany, that Germany would help the Mexican government to get some territory back that it had lost. So it says right here, reconquer the lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. So it's essentially trying to create an enemy out of Mexico for the United States, and to keep us so that we'd have to fight a two-front war in the United States. Again, this was not very successful. Mexico did not respond. Another issue is that Woodrow Wilson thought he could create a peace without victory. And in his goal, he really wanted to, Woodrow Wilson, the President of the United States, wanted the United States to be involved in the signing of the peace treaty and the setup of the world after World War I. So he's going to have these 14 points. And the major issues in these 14 points, and there are actually 14, but I just abbreviated it, is that he wants an end to secret treaties. The whole alliance system he feels is a failure. He wants, again, free trade and freedom of the seas that will benefit everybody, specifically the United States. He wants everyone to willingly reduce their military. He would like colonial territories to change, and actually that these nations, instead of being territories, would actually be able to determine for themselves what their form of government was. So again, a lot of these colonies gaining their freedom. And last but not least, he wanted to create the League of Nations, which was an international body that came together to find ways to solve issues diplomatically instead of using war. So those were his big goals, and Germany looked at those and said, that sounds pretty good to us. So Russia's going to exit the war in March of 1918 by signing the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Brest-Litovsk, again, is going to be a treaty between Germany and Russia. Russia will, in order to get out of the war, because they have their own civil war going on and in their country, they want to end World War I. And so they are going to have to give over large amounts of territory to Germany. Again, they are going to sign a treaty that will eventually be with the loser of World War I. So that's dangerous. So why did the Allies win World War I? Well, there's a couple reasons. U.S. is going to enter the war, and it's going to lift morale, all these fresh soldiers supporting the Allies. The other reason is Germany, while not fully broken, definitely thought that the peace would be based on Wilson's 14 points and that there wouldn't be that severe of punishment upon the Germans, so they were hopeful that they could get out of the war with very little damage done. And since Russia had already surrendered to them and they'd gotten a lot of territory, maybe they would be able to keep some of the stuff they had. Again, the question is going to be who's responsible for the war, and based on who's responsible for the war, whose fault was it, and then who is going to have to pay for it. So let me go again through these. I'm sorry. So this is showing up here. So the peace. Now, there's a Paris Peace Conference that occurs, and at this Paris Peace Conference, they're going to have multiple treaties that are signed with the different people and different countries involved in the war. But the main people that are there are Clemenceau. He is representing France, and his big issue is that he wants revenge for Germany attacking France. Lloyd George from Great Britain, he's going to want territory and British naval domination. So he's going to want to gain some colonial territory overseas, and he wants to diminish Germany's Navy as a result. Woodrow Wilson is there. I always think of him as like my beauty queen who just comes at the end and wants lasting peace. I want world peace. And then Orlando, Vittorio Orlando from Italy, is going to want the part of Italy that they had yet to be able to attach to their country through unification. So they're going to want some of that unredeemed portion of Italy. So you're not going to get to negotiate. I'm sorry. That's what the whole thing happened with your Cassie test. So what happens? Well, the Treaty of Versailles, specifically the peace treaty that was signed between the Allies and Germany. So there were many peace treaties that were signed in Paris. The Treaty of Versailles was the one signed with Germany. And what happened in that treaty is that they are going to set up the League of Nations. That's something that pretty much everyone agreed on. There's going to be territorial losses, both closely connected to Germany and then also overseas. Alsace-Lorraine and all territory east of the Rhine is going to return to France. Germany is also going to lose all of her colonies in Africa, and Pacific territories are going to become mandates that will now be administered by the League of Nations. Military restrictions will be put upon Germany. They will not be allowed any weapons of war or materials. Submarines are going to be limited, and I think they are only allowed to have 100,000 men. So again, severely limiting their military and turning over much of their fleet, their naval fleet, to the Allies. The thing that is most offensive to the Germans is that the section called the War Guilt Clause. This is where Germany takes full responsibility for the war and has to pay reparations or pay damages for the cost of the war. So there were some other provisions, but again, Germany, if they didn't sign this, was going to have to re-engage and start war again. So they go ahead and sign this. Actually, everybody's pretty unhappy because France wanted them even weaker. Italy didn't get the territory it wanted. The United States got the League of Nations, but again, all of this other stuff that was piled up made it so that a lot of the 14 points weren't realized. So no one's really happy. There's a lot of resentment. The reparations are seen by Germany as being ridiculous because they were not the only ones to fight this war. They also resented the loss of territory and the fact that their military was blamed and punished and they weren't allowed to have one. And a lot of people, a lot of countries didn't like the idea of self-determination. So obviously Germany's upset. The victors are also, the winners are not satisfied. France is upset because France feared that Germany would rebuild its military. Italy was denied their rewards that they thought they were due. Russia had so many casualties, but they were excluded from the treaty negotiation process, and in fact they ended up losing more territory than actually Germany did to new nations that were created. And the United States, what's sad about them is that Woodrow Wilson got this League of Nations put in, and then the Congress in the United States wouldn't even ratify it. So the Congress didn't actually allow the United States to join the League of Nations. So hopefully that will help you. Enjoy the rest of your day.